Okay, so the whole purpose of this video is to outline why I'm using the Razer Pro Click mouse over the MX Master 3. The MX Master 3 is widely considered the go-to productivity mouse out there. The Razer Pro Click is, I don't think, very well known, and I could be wrong about that, but when I post this video, I think you're going to find out, you're going to see a whole bunch of comments from people who are like, whoa, Razer has a productivity mouse? Here's the thing, this came out, I believe it was in July, and I picked it up right away, $100, and I basically didn't put it down unless I was testing another mouse like the Death Adder. And I had someone comment on my Instagram post saying, you know, you gotta try out the MX Master 3, so I picked it up. And like I said, it's a good mouse. Did I say that? Well, it is a good mouse, but the big difference for me is the ergonomics. Now, the MX Master 3 technically has a steeper angle to it, but the thing about just the overall size of these mice is that when I'm using the MX Master, my wrist actually drags on the surface, which happens to be a Razer mouse mat. When I'm using the Razer, more of my palm is on the device and less of my wrist is then dragging. And you could actually develop calluses on your wrist from that drag. And I know 2 weeks using the MX Master may not sound like, come on, you've already formed a callus, but literally my skin is hardening right there, right where the majority of the drag happens. Now there are of course some big feature differences, but there's also some gimmicks. So let's just start with the Pro Click since it's the most basic between the two, and then we'll kind of go from there. So number one, the Pro Click mouse, what you effectively get are two primary buttons, a scroll wheel that doesn't have any kind of fancy infinite scrolling going on. It can go left to right and you can push it in. You have a DPI adjustment on the top, and then you have your two side buttons. There's a thumb rest, which is awesome if you're right-handed and you're looking for precision. You know, a little extra grip does help. And it can connect over USB-A or through Bluetooth. Okay, very basic mouse. Another point is that it charges over micro USB, but the battery life's insane. I've charged it twice since July. Okay, now let's go to the MX Master. Instead of micro USB, you get USB-C. That's awesome. Not only do you get a scroll wheel, you get an infinite scroll wheel. I don't know if you heard that. It kind of sounds like a car engine revving up and then revving back down. It sounds really cool, but you can't hear it unless it's dead silent, right? Now, that scroll wheel can be very helpful for people who browse long documents or long web pages, in which case, awesome. Same price as the Razer Pro Click. You're already thinking that's two features that are better than the Pro Click. That's awesome. Okay, here's where it starts to get a little bit gimmicky in my mind. There's this side scroll wheel. It's not bad. It's not bad in the way that it works, and it's not bad in its positioning, but I can't find a practical use for it in software. Now, most of my time, those use cases I mentioned at the beginning, is spent in Microsoft's Office suite, Excel, Outlook, Word, and then on the browser. And you can really use this in Excel to move the spreadsheet laterally, right? So normally when you scroll, you're going to move the spreadsheet up and down. Okay, now there are two side buttons, but because of their placement, you know, being a little bit lower down than on the Pro Click and basically any other mouse in the whole wide world, they're not as easy to find and click on. Now look at the size of the buttons here on the Pro Click and then compare them to the buttons here on the MX Master. They're much smaller. Now they do feel good. They have this like rubberized texture to them, but the ones on the Razer Pro Click, they're plastic and maybe a little bit of rubber. I'm not quite sure what's on top, but they're actually just a little bit easier to actually click. They are louder, which is a bit annoying, but the primary keys on the MX Master are louder than the primary keys on the Pro Click. And that's super annoying, and use it more often. Okay, there's one other thing about the MX Master's features / gimmicks that I think you need to know. Let's call this one a gimmick, then we'll talk about one more that is actually a feature that's really freaking awesome. There's this button on the thumb. Seems like an amazing idea. Your thumb's on the thumb rest, you can add another button, why not? I have average sized hands. I literally measured them and Googled it, and I have average sized hands. So if you also have average sized hands or smaller, you're not really gonna be able to use that button. So the things that this button can do are like instantiate the start key, or the start menu, so it can replace the window button for that function. You can hit it and then slide, and then that would expose all of your open tabs like window key tab, and a few other things like that. Really nothing super necessary. I like the idea, I really do. I think it's a neat idea. But I could also, with my left hand, just go window tab, and then all of a sudden I've done the thing that this was supposed to do. So I don't think that I need to save microseconds by using that button. So to me, that's a gimmick. But hey, you can also just try to ignore it. And if you have average sized hands or smaller, you are going to ignore it. If you have larger hands, hey, there you go. Now, I promised one thing that's super awesome. You can connect this to up to 3 devices, and that's really cool. Now, I don't need to do that. My use case, I have my desktop. I do usually carry at least one laptop around and my tablet, when I'm home in my command center here. But the tablet, I really need a mouse. I mean, I don't know. I didn't feel like I needed to connect this to 3 different devices. There might be some people who do. Way to go. You got this. That's awesome. The thing about connectivity that I think is actually super cool on the Logitech is that you can connect multiple Logitech devices to one machine using one USB dongle. So I use a Logitech keyboard. It's ergonomic. It's quite good because it doesn't have backlighting. And then I used this thing for 2 weeks. And as soon as I plugged in this mouse, the Logitech software popped up and said, would you like to unify both devices using one dongle? I was like, yeah. Where was this 10 years ago? This is such a brilliant idea. So maybe it's been around for 10 years, I don't know. But anyway, that's awesome. Totally used it. No issues. Okay, back to the Pro Click. The Pro Click, more basic, more straightforward. To me, more comfortable because of that placement of the palm and how you can, you drag your wrist more along the surface using the Logitech mouse. It's also lighter at 3.6 ounces versus the 5 ounces on the MX Master. So for me, I'm returning the MX Master. I'm going to continue to drive this as I have been since the summer, and I'll continue to recommend it to people, and I don't think a lot of people know about it. This is an awesome mouse. Now, it's not perfect. I don't like that it's micro USB versus USB-C for charging, although I've only had to charge it a couple times in a few months. Also, the Bluetooth, I had a lot of trouble with connectivity. Sometimes when connected to my PC on Bluetooth, it would just drop connection. I'd have to turn it off, unpair it, repair it, the whole deal. Like, just think about that routine a day, every time, one time a day. It's freaking annoying. So I connected over USB and it's been completely consistent, no problems ever since. I do use it for gaming sometimes, and I'm sure this would do fine in a gaming scenario, but with its weight, I think that's a bit of a problem for gaming. So, okay, that's the comparison between the two. Not a full in-depth review of the MX Master, more of a, hey, how does it fit into my life? And if your use cases match mine, I think you're gonna find that, surprisingly, the Pro Click, not a bad choice. In fact, the preferred choice for me.